The second one, Saint Antoine Daniel. I've put them in order of time. Saint Antoine Daniel, 1601, 1649. He was also a priest. He arrived in Acadia in Nova Scotia, 1632. He spent a year there. And then in 1633, he was sent to Huronia with Saint John de Brébeuf, second trip, 33 to 40, well, 40, thereabout. He was there. He came back. He spent some time in Three Rivers. And then back to Huronia in 38 at Saint Mary of the Hurons and the other missions. And Saint Antoine Daniel was a victim of the Iroquois as well, 1648. So he died, 1648. He died on July 4th, 1648. The Iroquois surrounded his village, and that's why we represent him also with the surplice in the picture. He's there at the far right in the image of the martyrs. They were starting to shoot arrows, burning the little huts in the village. They're going to burn the village. He walked around, baptized those who were about to be baptized, the catechumens, giving absolution to those who had been wounded, and eventually he was wounded, he fell, and he died. Saint Antoine Daniel. Second one. Next, I'm going to go a little bit quicker here. Okay. Charles Garnier. Saint Charles Garnier, 1606, 1640, also a priest. He arrived in 36. He arrived, and he was sent right away to Huronia, which was the big mission territory at that time. Don't forget, at that time, there's only Quebec. There's only one village. And Quebec, in 1636, there's not 100 people in Quebec. People come by ship once a year. A lot of people die because of the scurvy, because of the hardness of the winter and all these things. So St. Charles Garnier is sent over there. And in Huronia, he is known, St. Charles Garnier, for his great devotion to the Immaculate Conception. He had made a vow to die for that truth of the Immaculate Conception. And he actually was martyred December 7th, which is the day before December 8th, Feast of the Immaculate Conception. So he was also here, Charles Garnier. He was on the shores of the Georgian Bay. He was in the village of Saint Jean. Okay, that's one of the village the Iroquois destroyed in 48. His body, lacerated by 2 bullet wounds and 2 blows from a hatchet, was found a few steps away from the ruins of the chapel. It's beautiful for a priest to die next to his chapel, because he said he offered thousands of times the holy sacrifice inside the chapel, and then he can mingle his blood with the blood of our Lord. So we move on to the 3 saints of the middle. I call them the middle because they died in the U.S. and they died first, actually. The 3 first who died, Saint René Goupil, then Saint Isaac Jogues, and Saint Jean de Lalande. These 3, the 3 apart, okay? So, Isaac Jogues, a few words about him. 1607, 1646. He died on October 18. And he arrived in New France in 1636. 1636, he arrives in New France, April 1636. Well, he left in April. with 25. There you go. In Quebec, well, there was a post over there at la Baie des Chaleurs. There were 25 Frenchmen and 2 Jesuits. Then he got to Tadoussac, and then he arrived in Quebec, where he did not stay very long. He went all the way to Three Rivers and made his way to Huronia. So, his Iroquois name was Ondesonk, bird of prey. Just as St. John of Brébeuf was a big man, 6 foot, 200 pounds, St. Isaac Jogues was small, very nervous, an athlete, okay? And so the basic details you need to know, he went to Huronia first, 36 to 39, went back to Quebec, and then Father Lejeune told him to go and found his village of St. Mary among the Hurons. I think he had been back to Quebec. Sometimes they would make a few trips. And then in 41, some of the community, I think one of the priests was very sick. And Isaac Jogues was told, you're going to bring Father back to Quebec. But there was rumors of Iroquois ambush. And Isaac Jogues had a premonition that the time for him to suffer for Christ was going to arrive. It didn't happen on the way up to Quebec. So 1641, he spent about a year there, 41 to 42, and August, end of July, 42, a group leaves Quebec, and they're very, very nervous because there's more and more rumors. It's not just rumors. Some have been attacked. There has been some deaths. The Iroquois are occupying all the forest along the rivers. But they have to go back to the Midlands. And so they leave. There are quite a number of canoes. They're big canoes. It can be 5, 6, 10 people in a canoe. They go to Three Rivers. And on August 1st, they go from Three Rivers up the St. Lawrence River. And as they get near today, which is called Berthierville, just north of Montreal, there's a lot of islands. The passage gets very narrow. And then they fall in an ambush. August 2nd, 1642. So among them, you have René Goupil. We'll speak about him next. There's Guillaume Couture. He's one of the both. Guillaume Couture and René Goupil are the donnés. They're lay people, jack of all trades, who give themselves to be the companions of the missionaries, of the Jesuits, to help them go hunting, build a house, prepare the fire, build the altar, do everything the priest needs to do so he can teach and save souls. And so the ambush is there. They're going silently along on the river. All of a sudden, arrows fly. The cloud of arrows and shots. One of the Indians right in front, one of the Huron right in front of Isaac Jogues, gets shot in the hand. St. Isaac Jogues grabs water from the river and baptizes him right there in the boat. They think they're going to die. Anyway, the Hurons, this is a fight. So the chief decided, we have to fight. They think that the Hurons are more numerous than the Iroquois. So let's go and fight them. They land the canoes, and all of a sudden other canoes appear, like 300 against 50 or something like this. Anyway, the battle begins. Don't forget, you're barefoot. Okay, it's a detail you must not forget. So you want to run in the forest, well, you're barefoot, although they're used to be barefoot, like kids, So Isaac Jogues, coming out of the boat, falls in, it's a little interesting detail. He falls in thick grass, in reeds. And he does not really know what to do at this moment, but for a few minutes, he's going to be lying in a thick grass. The Hurons are moving around, fighting. There's fight, there's shooting. Guillaume Couture, who's about 17, 18 years old, takes off. They run for your life. And he's an athlete. He runs very fast. After a while, he realized he has outran everybody. But then he's taken by a scruple. He says, well, I'm father's bodyguard. He's not following. So I have to go back. Turns around, goes back where the fighting is going on. And he gets into a fight with one of the Indians who push him to the ground. And with his musket, the old guns, the Indians just misses him because of the shot, the blow. But Guillaume says, well, I'm not going to miss you. And Guillaume shoots him and kills him. And then a bunch of Indians falls on him, ties him like a sausage, bites his fingernails, so unarm him. Meanwhile, René Goupil is taken prisoner as well. And when Father Jogues, after these first few minutes, finds out that there are some prisoners, then he rises from his position while the Iroquois are moving around. Then he walks towards the prisoner. There's a couple of Indians there, and then he sees this black robe coming. He says, I want to be a prisoner too. And there's a few moments, is that real or what's going on here, Eventually they jump on him and they torture him. And so there's going to be, I think, 18 days trip, okay, to Alexandre, tu peux zoomer ici. 18-day trips, okay, so from Montreal's over here. Here's the arrest was about here. There's the Richelieu River right there. Saint-Césaire, where I live, is right there, okay. Went down to Lake Champlain, which St. Isaac Jogues was the first one to see as a missionary. He called him Blessed Sacrament Lake. The first name was Blessed Sacrament Lake. They went down all the way down and then to the Mohawk countries. So, which is today Albany, which is Arisville, okay, over here at the junction of the rivers there. So they took 18 days to go there. But each time on the way down the river, there's some Mohawk villages. So, new seance of tortures every night. They have to parade their hunting trophies, especially the black robe. Don't kill them. So they would have kind of a platform, and they would tie the prisoner on the platform, tie them to a post, and during the day they would torture them. There'd be the gauntlet. The missionaries would have to go between two rows of Indians, and they grab a branch, they grab a chain, they grab something. They just hit on the missionaries, on the Christians. And in the evening, when the adults had finished, then the children would come to learn how to torture. Burning charcoals on them, burning them, whatever. Okay. For 18 days. A number of times they could have escaped. But St. Isaac said, no, they need a priest. I need to baptize. I need to give them the support of the priest. So he stayed all the way to the end. They arrive in Arisville. And in one of his letters, St. Isaac describes that after the Hurons, then the three white men, Guillaume Couture, René Goupil, and Father Jogues, had to go through the gauntlet. So a procession, but you're gonna get it. And the first was Guillaume Couture, who St. Isaac said, I thought all his bones were broken. That's how bad they hit him. Next was René Goupil. They were smacking in his face. His face was covered with blood, but he would keep his hands down. He was a donneur, a surgeon. And Father Jogues behind was shouting, cover your face! Cover your face! and René Goupil would not. Because all these people, they have to understand, they meditated on the Passion. And deep inside was always this thought. They meditated on the Passion. Our Lord suffered with the crown of thorns, the scourging, the nailing. My Jesus, you suffered for me. Now it's my turn to suffer for you. Go ahead. And St. Isaac said, René Goupil's face, he was covered with blood. And last of all was the priest, the black robe. He was the only one in black robe. The others were in civilians. Well, whatever was left, I think he had no more black robe then, but he was the older of the three. So, you have to read that later on. So he managed to escape. He spent 15 months in captivity. René Goupil was killed. Guillaume Couture was sent to another village, and eventually he went back to Quebec a few years later. But Isaac Jogues wrote, the book of his biography is called A Saint Among the Savages. It exists in English. You have to read this. It's just, it's tough. I mean, you wonder how he lived. And they call him the slave martyr. So, anyway, he survived these 15 months. November 43, he's on a fishing expedition. So, he's part of the village of the Mohawks. He kind of belongs to the family, and he wants to stay with them. He's not chained. He's loose. He can walk around. He baptizes all kind of people who are dying. And he does not want to escape. And one day, they go on a fishing trip, and they meet some Dutch people, Dutch sailors, Dutch pioneers. Now, this is November 43. In France, at that moment, they've lost trace of Father Jogues. Is he still alive? Where's Father Jogues? We haven't heard from him for 15 months. By the way, Father Jogues is the first one to learn the Mohawk language, the first white man to learn the Mohawk language. While he was there, although he also got all his fingers eaten up and beaten and tortured horribly, he learned the language. But everything by heart. There's no books, no paper to write the vocabulary. You have to remember everything by heart. One time he saw a Mohawk with something in his hands, and then he says, that's my imitation of Christ. Because when they got arrested near Montreal, the Indians took all their belongings. But a few months later, he saw one of them with a book. They had never seen a book. They don't know what a book is. And he managed to get it back. And that was his strength. When you read The Imitation of Christ next time, remember, that's the only book St. Isaac Jogues had with him during that winter of 42, 43, outside and in horrible circumstances. Anyway, but in France, in Europe at that moment, there was some negotiation between Holland and France. And the Dutch authorities wanted some favors from the French. Actually, Louis XIII had just died. It was Anne d'Autriche who was the regent of France. Louis XIV was just a little boy. And they said, okay, we will give that to you if you try to find out where Father Jogues is. And if he's prisoner, send him back. Try to deliver him. And that's why, so some of the Dutch settlers knew that Father Jogues was wanted by the French regent, by Anne d'Autriche. And again, is a very moving stage in St. Isaac Jogues, where he met these Dutch settlers and said, Father, you can escape. There's a boat over there. And Father Jogues says, well, but I cannot abandon my people. They need a priest. I'm the only priest here. I go, I don't go. And he writes in his notes how he told them, give me, I think, a night. I need to pray. And he's on the beach. The boat is over there. You can see the boat. And it was more than a night. It was a couple of days. And he's meditating, my God, what do you want? If I go back to Europe, maybe I never come back to the missions. You have to think like these priests. They've been tortured. He has just a little bit of a finger left, a bit of his thumb. All the other fingers are gone, are eaten away. And he suffered so much. His friend was killed. René Goupil was killed, tortured. And said, well, I don't want to leave these people. But then, what convinced him to go back was, now if I go back, I can give a report to my superiors on the missions. I can explain to them the Mohawk language. Because if I'm dead, if I'm killed, all my knowledge will be lost. I can speak about the missions to the other young seminarians, young missionaries, those who want to be. I can recruit more missionaries. Okay. So he went back. It's one of that story of St. Isaac Jogues going back to France has the same moving intensity as the old patriarch Joseph in the Bible being recognized by his father Jacob. Remember that story? Well, because Isaac Jogues, first of all, he had no more caste. He was completely disfigured from his tortured, from everything. Fingers, he was wearing kind of gloves to hide his hands. He was dressed like a very, very poor beggar settler, you know. He arrived in Brittany. He got to England, had to hide in the boat in England because there was persecution in England against Catholic. So leave the Mohawks to go to the Protestant, you could be killed in England. Oh, man. Okay, now I'll stay in the boat. So then eventually he was dropped on the coast of Brittany, and then he makes his way to the first village. He hears a church bell, goes to Mass. It's the first time he has Mass in 15 months. Although he's a priest, he hasn't been to Mass for so long. He does not say who he is. He keeps it secret. I'm just coming from New France. And he makes his way to the Jesuit house of Rennes, near at the end of Brittany. That moment is you have to read it. Yeah, it's. So he arrives. He's telling nobody knows who he is. He's just a settler who escaped from New France, and he wants to see the Jesuit priest. So he arrives. He knocks at the door of the chapel. It's say about 10 minutes before 7. There's a 7 o'clock morning mass. He knocks it. And one of the brothers open up, and this poor beggar says, "Can I see Father Superior?" And the brother says, "Well, yeah, but it's going to be hard. He's just got to the sacristy now to get dressed for Mass." What's your name? Well, it doesn't matter. Just tell him I'm arriving from New France, and I'd like to see him. New France? He says, yes. So the priest, I think, removes his vestments, runs to the portery, the reception. He says, "You're from New France?" He says, "Yes, Father. Can I attend Mass?" He says, "Oh, sure. He still doesn't know who he is." Attends Mass, receives communion. After the Mass, so the priest removes his vestment. They go to the parlor. He says, "You're from New France. Do we have any news from Father Jogues? We haven't heard from him so long. Is he still alive? I mean, the Queen talked to the Dutch. We don't know what happened to him. We've lost track this is January 44. So from August 42 to January 44, they've lost trace of him." And so, "No, he's still alive." "He's still alive? You're sure?" "Oh, yeah, he's alive. Yeah, I know. I know him. I've met him." "You've met him? How he is?" "Really? Well, he's talking to you right now." "You're Father Jogues." That moment, it's like Joseph telling his brothers, "I am Joseph." You know, it's very, very moving. And the priest then looks at his hands and everything, and kisses his hand, whatever. I mean, and very soon, of course, they call everybody, and Father had to tell the story and tell the missions. But very soon, the word spreads in the city of Rennes, And then it goes all the way to the Queen of France, la Reine, la Régente, Anne d'Autriche, who asked to see this living martyr. And yet, this missionary with nothing left, all has to go to the throne, to the Queen's throne, and she wants to see his hands, wants to kiss his hands. Wow, a real martyr, This is not relics. This is a man walking. He's a live reliquary. So, anyway, and then at one moment, Father Jogues told that to one of his superiors, his father, I have a favor to ask, but I need your help. What is it? Well, to say Mass, you need to have these 4 fingers. I don't have them anymore. So I haven't said Mass for going on 2 years, perhaps, thereabout. Could you write to the Pope and see if I can say Mass with other fingers? And the Pope replied, but then you have no emails in these days, okay? So he writes a letter in Paris or wherever, Orléans, where he was from, whatever. Send the letter all the way to Rome. Letter has to come back. It's 2-3 months, okay? And the reply, okay? Indignum esset Christi martyrem, Christi non bibere sanguinem. It would not be proper that a martyr for Christ should not be able to offer to drink the blood of Christ. The Holy Father says, of course, say Mass. Of course, But St. Isaac Jogues was there in France in the middle of this royal surroundings, and he was honored like a living saint, which was going against his humility. And then he said, there's still people over there who need the priest. Can I go back? Please? Or please? Can I go back? And so in 1644, so captivity 1644, in September, he comes back to New France. And where does he go? Ville-Marie. Ville-Marie is 2 years old. 1642, 1644. And for 2 years, he will be the chaplain of Maisonneuve, Jeanne Mance. Imagine attending Mass with the priest. It's a Dominus Vobiscum, and you're looking at his hands, whatever is left of it. It's like a leper, Wow, that's a priest, That's the Mass. And finally, in 46, there's some talks between the Iroquois and the French. The French are becoming stronger and stronger. There's some talks, peace talks. They're trying to stop the wars. And eventually, they say there's only one man who can go and talk to them. It's Father Jogues. He knows their language. And so he goes back for the second time, but this time he goes as an ambassador, a peacemaker. So he's going to go down this pretty much the same way that he had done as a prisoner, where he had been tortured. But this time he's going to go with a group of Hurons to try to talk sense to the Mohawks. Very soon, the Huron escort abandon him one morning. He wakes up, they're all gone. There's only himself with Jean de Lalande. At that time, Jean de Lalande is there. And he will arrive back into the village of Arisville. And very soon, pressure is building up. And he and Jean de Lalande says, we're going to be killed any moment. It's for sure, okay? Jean de Lalande is allowed to make his vows to become a Jesuit brother. Although Isaac Jogues said, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but might as well, So that's why here you see him, he's in cassock, while René Goupil is still in civilian clothes. Okay? And one day, each time they're calling Saint Father Jogues, they always think that's it. And they're saying rosaries and Hail Marys and whatever. And one day he's asked to go to a hut. And as he's bowing down to enter the hut, somebody's inside waiting to smack his head with a tomahawk. The next day, Saint Jean de Lalande will be killed also. So that's Saint Isaac Jogues. Here's there's various trips, okay? The various trip to Arisville, which is here, okay? The Society of St. Pius X has this pilgrimage every year. Now it's in September. Used to be in June. Now it's September. They walk 10 miles. It's a short pilgrimage. There's about 500 people. Everybody goes to Arisville, park their cars like overnight, camping. And then the next morning, you go 10 miles away and you walk the 10 miles to Arisville. And you can see the place where Saint Isaac Jogues, René Goupil, we'll see in a second, Jean de Lalande were martyred. And I have to say, there's even a plaque with the name of Guillaume Couture. Guillaume Couture is there. He was tortured right there, although he survived. And he got married, had 10 children. And there you are. Okay, so Saint Isaac Jogues, great man. He's in the painting, he's the second one, always here, and his head is wounded there. Okay. So, we're coming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're almost at the end. The others are shorter, you'll see.